Have you ever paused and wondered why it's always you who gives a little more, who listens a little longer, who shows up first, yet still feels unseen? It's a quiet ache, isn't it? You pour out kindness, generosity, and care, but somehow, over time, people stop noticing the effort. They start expecting it, and worse, they stop cherishing it. If that resonates with you, let me say this right now. You're not alone. As we grow older, we're often taught that being warm, agreeable, and ever available is the right way to live. We were raised with values like hospitality, selflessness, and putting others first. Beautiful traits, no question. But what no one warned us about is this. If you give too much of yourself without setting boundaries, people begin to take it for granted. This isn't about bitterness or turning cold. It's about wisdom. The truth is, not everyone deserves your time, your heart, or your energy. The sooner you embrace that, the more respected and free you'll feel. Let me ask you something simple. Have you ever had a friend who only reaches out when they need a favor? They don't check in. Don't ask how you're holding up. They just call when something's wrong. And you, being the kind soul you are, answer. You listen, you help, you comfort. But when the call ends, so does the connection, until the next time they need you. Does that sound familiar? Now think about how it feels afterward. Drained? Overlooked? Maybe even invisible? That's because you're giving from your own well, and no one's pouring anything back. Your energy is like a phone battery, full at the start of the day, but every conversation, every interaction chips away at it. Some people recharge you. They bring laughter, peace, warmth. Others, though, they take and take until you're running on empty. They don't always mean to. It's not always intentional, but if you don't draw a line, they'll never realize they've crossed it. Here's a truth that doesn't change with age. People don't chase what's always there. They don't value what's freely given. They treasure what's rare, what they have to earn. That's just human nature. And as we get older, with time growing more precious and peace more sacred, this truth matters even more. You've earned the right to protect your heart, your energy, your space. But so many of us struggle with this. We worry that saying no makes us unkind, that stepping back makes us selfish, that setting boundaries will push people away. Here's the reality. If someone's only around when they need something, they're already taking advantage. Let me paint a picture. Imagine a fruit tree, its branches heavy with sweet, ripe fruit. People come, they pick, they enjoy, and that's okay. But if no one waters the roots, if no one tends the soil, the tree weakens. The fruit fades. Even a generous tree needs care. You are that tree. If people only take your fruit without nurturing your roots, you'll feel it in your spirit, your energy, your heart. Being kind doesn't mean being weak. Being warm doesn't mean being walked on. You can be loving and still say, "This is enough." You can be generous and still say, "I need space." In fact, the people who truly value you will respect you more when you do. And those who don't, maybe they were only there for what they could take. That's hard to hear, especially when we've spent years, decades even, being the dependable one, the generous one, the one who never says no. But sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to stop showing up where your presence isn't honored. There's power in stepping back, in silence, in letting someone feel your absence. Suddenly, they notice, they wonder, they remember what they once overlooked. It's not about playing games. It's about self-respect. When you're always the one adjusting, always calling, always bending to fit someone else's needs, you teach them your time is easy to come by. But when you start showing up for yourself first, when you hold back just a little, when you let people earn your presence, something shifts. They stop assuming you'll always be there. They start valuing when you are. Your kindness is a gift, not an obligation. When you say yes to everyone, all the time, without considering your own needs, people stop seeing it as generosity. They start seeing it as your role. And when you finally say no, they're shocked, maybe even upset. Not because they're cruel, but because you've trained them to expect your yes. But here's the good news. You can retrain them. It's never too late. The moment you say, "I'm not available," or "I need some time," or even just "stay quiet," instead of jumping in to help, that's when you reclaim your space, your energy, your worth. And you know what happens next? People begin to treat you differently. Not because you've become distant or cold, but because you've become valuable in their eyes again. Not because you changed who you are, but because you remembered who you are. You spent a lifetime being kind, and that's beautiful. But now it's time to pair that kindness with wisdom, to give where it's appreciated, to help without sacrificing your peace, to love without losing yourself. Being available all the time doesn't make you more lovable. It just makes you easier to overlook. And you, my friend, deserve so much more than that.
Now that we've talked about why it's so easy to feel overlooked when you're always giving, let's shift to something practical. How to change that pattern without losing the kindness that makes you, you. It's not about building walls or shutting people out. It's about learning to protect your peace with the same care you've always shown others. Let's explore a few simple, powerful ways to do that, starting with something you can begin today. First, start noticing how people make you feel. Your heart and body are wiser than you might think. After a conversation, do you feel lighter, like you've been warmed by a good friend's laughter? Or do you feel heavy, drained, maybe even a little smaller? That's your energy speaking. Some people lift you up. They leave you smiling, grounded, seen. Others, though, leave you questioning yourself, like you're not quite enough. This isn't about blaming them, it's about awareness. The first step to protecting your peace is recognizing who recharges you and who depletes you. Here's something you can do right now. Pay attention to those feelings for 1 week. When you hang up the phone or walk away from a visit, pause. Ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Maybe jot it down in a notebook or even on your phone. You don't need to act on it yet. Just notice. A woman I know, let's call her Susan, tried this in her late 60s. She'd spent years being the go-to listener for her family, always on call for everyone's problems. But when she started paying attention, she realized her sister's calls left her exhausted, not because they were fighting, but because it was always one-sided. Susan listened for hours, but her sister rarely asked, "How about you?" That realization was the first step to changing how Susan shared her energy. Once you start noticing, the next step is to practice saying no, gently but firmly. This one's hard, especially if you've spent decades saying yes to everyone. We worry no sounds mean like we're letting people down. But saying no doesn't make you unkind, it makes you honest. It's you saying, I value myself enough to save some energy for me. You don't need a long explanation or an apology. A simple, I'm not available right now, or let me think about it, is enough. No is a complete sentence, and it's one of the most powerful tools you have. Try this. The next time someone asks for a favor that feels like too much, pause before answering. Take a breath and say, I'll get back to you. That gives you time to decide if it's something you truly want to do. I heard about a man named Tom, 72, who used to drop everything to help his neighbors, fixing fences, driving them to appointments, you name it. He loved helping, but it started wearing him down. One day, when a neighbor asked him to run an errand during his only free afternoon, He tried this pause. He said, "Let me check my schedule." Later, he called back and said, "I can't this time, but let me know if you need help next week." To his surprise, the neighbor thanked him and didn't push. Tom felt lighter, like he'd reclaimed a piece of himself. Now let's move to something that feels even easier but is just as powerful: choosing silence. You don't always have to respond, fix, or jump in. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do for yourself is to stay quiet. If a friend vents about the same problem for the 100th time, you don't have to offer solutions. If a family member tries to pull you into drama, you don't have to take the bait. Silence isn't cold, it's a boundary. It says, "I'm here, but I'm not carrying this for you." Here's how to try it. Next time you feel the urge to solve someone's problem or fill an awkward pause, hold back. Nod, listen. But don't rush to respond. A friend of mine, Linda, in her early 70s, used to feel guilty if she didn't fix her daughter's every worry. But she started practicing this quiet pause. One day, her daughter called, upset about a work issue. Instead of jumping in with advice, Linda said, "That sounds tough," and waited. Her daughter kept talking, worked through it herself, and later thanked Linda for listening. Linda realized she didn't always have to be the fixer, just being present was enough. These habits, noticing how you feel, saying no without guilt, choosing silence, start small, but they build something big: self-respect. They teach people how to treat you. If you're always the one adjusting, always answering, always giving, others learn to expect it. But when you pause, when you hold back just a little, they start to see you differently. They realize your time isn't endless, your energy isn't automatic, and the ones who truly care, they'll step up. They'll ask how you're doing. They'll respect your space. Let me share a quick story. There was a woman, Margaret, in her 70s, who was everyone's rock: family, friends, even her church group. She hosted every holiday, counseled every crisis, gave until she was running on fumes. One day, after driving across town to help her niece with yet another emergency, she got home and sat down. She thought, "When did anyone last ask if I'm okay?" It wasn't anger, it was clarity. From then on, she started small changes. She'd say, "Let me get back to you," instead of yes. She stopped answering calls when she needed rest. She chose silence instead of fixing every problem. At first, some people pulled away, but others surprised her. They started checking in, respecting her time, seeing her as a person, not just a resource. That's the power of boundaries. They don't just protect you, they reveal who truly values you. As you get comfortable with these habits, you'll notice something else. You feel lighter. Not because you're pushing people away, but because you're choosing who gets your energy. You're not here to be everyone's solution or to carry their weight. You're here to live fully, to feel joy, to surround yourself with people who give as much as they take. And the best part? You don't have to change who you are. You're still kind, still warm, just wiser about where you pour your heart. As we've journeyed through this together, I hope you're starting to see something powerful. Your kindness, your time, your energy, they're precious gifts, not obligations. You don't need to pour endlessly into others to prove your worth. You don't need to be always available to be loved. By noticing how people make you feel, practicing a gentle no and choosing silence when it serves you, you're not just setting boundaries, you're reclaiming your peace. And that, my friend, is a beautiful thing, especially at this stage of life when every moment feels more sacred. Let's take a moment to reflect. You've spent years, maybe decades, being the one who shows up, who listens, who gives without asking for much in return. That's not a small thing. It speaks to the depth of your heart. But now it's time to give that same love to yourself. You don't need to overhaul your life or become someone new. It's about small, Intentional choices, pausing before you say yes, staying quiet instead of fixing everything, letting people earn your presence. These aren't acts of selfishness, they're acts of wisdom. They're you saying, I deserve to feel valued too. Think about what happens when you start living this way. You begin to feel lighter, more grounded, more like the person you were before the world taught you that your value lies in how much you give. People start to treat you differently, not because you've become distant or cold, but because you've become rare. Your time, your energy, your warmth, they're no longer automatic. They're gifts, cherished by those who truly see you. And the ones who don't, they may fall away, and that's okay. You're not losing them, you're making space for those who pour into you as much as you pour into them. There's a quiet strength in this shift. It's not loud or showy, it's felt in the way you carry yourself, in the peace on your face, in the way you no longer rush to answer every call or solve every problem. You're like a sunset, warm and steady, not chasing attention but drawing it naturally because you simply are. That's the kind of presence I want for you, not one that begs to be noticed, but one that's honored because it's yours. Let me share one last story to bring this home. There was a woman named Ellen in her late 60s who'd always been the family glue. She hosted every gathering, mediated every argument, answered every late-night call. But she noticed she was tired, not just physically, but deep in her soul. One day, after yet another family member asked her to drop everything for a last-minute favor, she decided to try something new. Instead of saying yes, she said, "I can't today, but let's talk tomorrow." No explanation, no guilt. The fatigue. Next day, she spent her morning sipping coffee in her garden, something she hadn't done in years. To her surprise, the family member called back, not to ask for help, but to check in. They talked, really talked, for the first time in ages. Ellen realized that by stepping back, she'd made room for something real, connection, not just obligation. That's what happens when you choose yourself. The people who matter will rise to meet you. They'll respect your time, value your presence, and show up in ways you might not have expected. And those who don't? They're showing you who they are. You don't need to carry their weight or prove your worth to them. You've already done enough. Now it's about living in a way that feels true to you, surrounded by people who don't just take your fruit but help water your roots. You don't need to change the whole world to feel this shift. Start small. Say no to one thing that feels too heavy. Stay silent in a moment you'd usually fill. Notice how someone leaves you feeling and choose who gets your energy. These tiny steps lead to something big, a life where you're not just the giver, the fixer, the dependable one, but a person, whole and respected, living with peace. You've earned that. Your time is gold, your heart is a treasure, and you get to decide who holds it close. So, if today is the day you decide to stop bending over backward, let it be, not with anger or sadness, but with grace. Let it be the day you realize your kindness is most powerful when it's paired with boundaries, when it's given freely, not expected. You're not here to be everyone's solution or to carry their burdens. You're here to live fully, to feel joy, to be surrounded by people who see you, not just what you do for them. And if that means your circle shrinks, let it. A smaller circle filled with mutual respect is worth more than a crowd that only shows up to take. I want you to carry this with you. You don't need permission to rest. You don't need a reason to say no. You don't need anyone's approval to live peacefully. Your presence, your love, your energy, they're gifts, and not everyone deserves them. Choose wisely, not out of fear, but out of love for yourself. Because when you do, something beautiful happens. You start to feel like you again, not just the helper or the rock, but a full, vibrant person, deserving of care, rest, and respect. If this resonates with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever felt taken for granted? Are you starting to set boundaries in this season of life? Share your story. You never know who it might touch. And if this video spoke to your heart, give it a like and hit that subscribe button. We've got more coming, content made just for you, full of the wisdom you've earned and the encouragement you deserve. Thank you for being here. You matter, your peace matters, and you're never too late to choose yourself. Here's to living your most joyful, powerful life at any age. I'll see you in the next one.